welcome back to my channel. Of course, today you know we are going to be making brownies. Now, this is definitely the birthday edition because it was suggested to me by a friend of mine to make my favorite recipe, and my favorite recipe is double chocolate chip. Now, not only will I be giving you a hands-on tutorial with this, you will also be seeing the finished product, and I will definitely be tasting it. So stay tuned. Alright guys, so let's begin. First, you're going to need some semi-sweet chocolate chips. I bought the ones from PriceSmart because they came in a much bigger bag. Next, you're going to need some brown sugar. You can use the dark brown. I'm using the light brown one from, was it Jamaica Gold? Next, you're going to need some flour that's unsifted.
That's good.
Next, you're going to need some salt and some baking soda. Next, you're going to need 2 sticks of butter. And next, you're going to need some vanilla and water mixture, and I'll also put the specifics for that as well. Just look out for the recipe below. Next, you're going to need 3 eggs. I used 3 because I didn't have 2 large ones, and usually this is how the recipe works. Alright guys, I'm sure we all did science at some point, and you know that whenever you're about to melt down something, you can't use plastic. So get yourself a nice container that will transfer the heat and will allow your chocolate to melt without sticking too much. And then you're gonna add both your sticks of butter to it as well, because we want that nice glossy even texture, and just enough to basically not allow it to stick and all that crazy stuff. So let's get melting. Next, get yourself a nice big pan of water. You don't need to have too much water, it's just enough to melt the chocolate. In the meantime, grab another bowl and we're gonna start mixing together our flour, salt, and our baking soda. We're gonna use a tiny little spatula because I don't necessarily have a whisk on me. So we're just gonna make do with what we have. You don't have to mix too much because then we might incorporate way too much air. So just make it subtle, gentle, and nothing too harsh. Next, in another bowl, we're gonna mix together our eggs and our sugar with the vanilla and water mixture. The vanilla is actually going to help the taste of the brownies, try to kind of diffuse the taste of the chocolate just a little bit while giving it a little hint of sweetness. We don't want to be too much of an overpowering vanilla flavor, so we just use a little bit. I remember seeing this recipe where it said to use one of the handheld mixers, and I realized that would have been a little bit too much, so I just used one of the spatulas that I have, the same one that I used to mix the flour, but I washed it off and started the mixing process. Now it's time to grab our baking containers. I'm using a glass one because of the shape. I don't have a metal one to match this one, and I think personally to me, I think it bakes the brownies a little better than the metal one, because the metal one transfers heat much quicker, so you tend to have a burnt base, and I don't want that. So now we're gonna grab our container and we're gonna line it with Pam or any cooking spray that you have, or you can use butter or liquid oil, and we're going to layer 2 pieces of wax paper across from each other, and I'll show you this. Now that our water is boiling, it's time to put in our pan with the chocolate chips and the butter. Now slowly but surely the chocolate is going to start melting, and you don't want it to stick and burn, so keep stirring to get it all incorporated and allow the butter to melt right through. Now that we're finished melting, it's time to let it cool. You can let it cool for about 10 to 15 minutes, just so that when we add our eggs, it doesn't magically cook them. Now that our mixture is cool, add in your eggs and your sugar mixture. Please make this a little bit quick because you don't want the eggs to start cooking and getting all lumpy and clumpy, because then it's going to taste raw, and we don't want our chocolate brownies to taste like cooked eggs, now do we? Now we're going to mix in our flour. Please do not over mix this or over beat it, because it will actually cause your brownies to sink in the middle. In the end, you'll actually see how I made this mistake, even though it happens so often. I will eventually be able to perfect my craft. I am a human being. I make mistakes, but you can also learn from mine. Here comes the pretty part. Now it's time to take your greased container, and now you're going to pour in your brownie mixture. You definitely want to make sure it's all even though it should even itself out, so that when you add it to the oven, it doesn't rise unevenly, even though it really shouldn't do too much rising. Yes, your mixture should be lumpy. Yes, it shouldn't be too even, because you're making brownies, for crying out loud. You definitely want it to be all chunky. If you feel uncomfortable with some of the flour lumps in there, you can take them out if you wish. You can slowly mix them up, but I wouldn't recommend it because of the possibility of putting too much air into it and causing it to rise. I set my timer to 25 minutes because I was doing a test of the new timing, but for the completed product, I recommend you put it to 35 minutes and let it stay. Don't open the oven, don't test it, just let it remain, because if the middle sinks, you're gonna be a sad potato. Now time is up. Time to take our lovely brownies out the oven. As you can see, mine's a little bit raised because of the incorporation of too much air, but eventually it will sink down a bit and it will start to come together as soon as it cools down. Now it's time for us to cut our brownies into squares. What I did was I cut it into 3 first, and then I removed some of the edges that I didn't want. Then I cut it into smaller squares. You see that texture, how thick and rich it is? You definitely don't want your brownies to be cakey. You just want them to be all gooey and nice and soft. Especially when they're hot, they taste way better and much more mushy. Also, please ignore the fact that I'm pressing down on my knife. Believe me, I had to put mine in the fridge because my house isn't exactly the best place to store things outside for too long. So to avoid the fact that my cat might get into it or ants, I put mine in the refrigerator. But trust me, when you heat it up, oh Lord, just pop some ice cream on that and you are a happy camper, I promise you. Definitely hope you guys enjoyed this video as much as I did. And now for the big reveal. Y'all seeing this? Y'all seeing this? I'm ready. I'm so ready.
Let's get it on. Let's get it on. Let's love.
Y'all see how I did a little extra shit today? Like, my birthday was like Monday, and I went as far as to do all of this. I think it looks really good. What do you think? Leave a comment down below and let me know. But guys, let me know if you definitely try this out. I want pictures. I want to see everything. Like, just keep me updated. And disclaimer, it is not a diabetic friendly recipe, but today is what we call cheat day, which is pretty much illegal in the diabetic world, but you only live once, right? Thank you for subscribing, liking, and sharing. Hope you enjoy your week and your day and whatever is happening right now. Whether you're struggling, I hope you get through it. And please look out for my next video. Click the notification bell for more updates, because I will be doing some more this week. So bye guys.